Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Smith. I'm Superintendent of Parks for Burlington County. Thank you for taking the time to review our budget. I want to welcome you to the park system. Park system is one of the most efficient departments in Burlington County. We have a lot of responsibility. We have 13 active parks. We have 3 inactive parks that we patrol and take care of, waiting for development. We have 3 regional trail sections. We have 3 art galleries, 3 museums. We have miles and miles of trails, and we do that with a very light crew. When you review our budget, you're going to notice that there is a lot of funding for repairs. We have 7 tenants in our parks, so we maintain those houses. We also maintain the buildings at all of our properties, particularly Smithville, the Historic Prison Museum, the Warden's House at the Prison Museum, and we do that again on a very light budget for personnel and a very light budget in general. Primary goal of the park system is to provide visitors to the parks with a pleasant experience, and by pleasant we mean aesthetically pleasing and also safe and secure. So most of our funding and most of our efforts are geared toward making the parks a nice place for you and others to visit. We also have as a primary goal education, whether it's the environmental education, or historical, cultural affairs education. It's again a prime goal of all of our staff, office workers, our maintenance staff, our park rangers, our park naturalists, and our park museum attendants to educate the public. We want everyone who enters our park to leave knowing a little more than they did when they came here. So while you're walking through the parks, you'll probably notice a park ranger, and they may come over to you and talk to you a little bit about the park, or a little bit about what you might be looking at, and most of our efforts are geared toward that. We have a parks naturalist who is in charge of coordinating our nature and environmental education programs. We also have a cultural affairs programming coordinator who coordinates events, large events like Earth Fair and Fall for the Arts, our holiday event. Some of our budget, well actually all of our budget, if you'll notice when looking at the budget, is open space and farmland preservation funding. That funding allows us to maintain the parks. We can create gardens, maintain the trails, and do everything but education and programming. Education and programming are one of the dilemmas that we have with our budget. Since we can't use our primary funding source for those items, we have to find creative ways to fund those. We do that by either charging rent on some of our properties. If you want to use a picnic pavilion, we may be charging you to use that picnic pavilion. We have an event tent that we hold weddings or receptions in, and that's also for rent. We also have several friends group. Friends of the Mansion at Smithville, Smithville Conservancy, and the Prison Museum Association all help us generate funding for our programs and to help maintain the parks. We, again, have a light crew, so in the budget we're requesting 2 additional personnel as park rangers. We are also asking for office assistants. Right now the Parks Administration consists of 2 people. It would be me as superintendent, and we have a principal clerk typist who acts as sort of as the office manager, accounts manager. She handles all of our accounts payable and accounts receivable. We also have as I said before, our cultural affairs coordinator, and she also has an account manager that works with her to help her coordinate those larger events. In park maintenance, we have 7 maintenance repairers on our landscape maintenance crew. We have 5 maintenance repairers on our building maintenance crew. We have an inventory control clerk. We have a mechanic that works in our shop on our machinery. We have 10 park rangers. We have 2 museum attendants, and that rounds off our personnel. So if you can imagine all of the parks that I mentioned earlier, all the buildings and the tenant properties that we have, all of that is being maintained by 7 landscape maintenance coordinators and 5 landscape maintenance personnel, and 5 building maintenance personnel. We also supplement the landscape maintenance personnel with a landscape maintenance contract, and you'll see that as a line item in our budget. 3 years ago, we entered into an agreement with a landscape maintenance company, a landscaper, and they help with some of our more intensive park areas. However, our landscape maintenance repairers will still have to take care of our gardens. They create gardens, they plant trees, they trim trees and bushes. Our 5 maintenance coordinators that work with the buildings are by themselves. They take care of all of our structures. We also have an agreement with Occupational Training Center, and they do some of the lawn cutting on our residential units. And you'll see that as a budget. That's one of the larger line items in the budget, is our landscape maintenance contract. So bear in mind that that is our intensive landscaping and our lawn maintenance that's taken care of by the Occupational Training Center. We have to decide whether to add personnel on a temporary basis, such as seasonal workers, or whether to use or to bring on permanent full-time employees. Some of the benefits of having full-time employees is that you can train them once and they are trained for their career. You know, we do additional training as we go, but we don't have to retrain them every season like we do with seasonal workers. One of the advantages of seasonal workers is that we don't have to pay them in the wintertime when the workload is a little bit less. We also are looking at asking you for either a permanent full-time office staff person or a seasonal staff person. Again, the same situation applies with the training during the seasons that they'll be working, and then retraining if that seasonal worker doesn't come back to us year to year. Bringing on a full-time office worker is what we're hoping to do. We think we can keep them busy throughout the year with our nature programs, which run throughout the year, with the rental of our event space and some of our other museum space. We think we really could use a full-time office worker. Again, I guess that's up to you, and I'll make my pitch when the time comes. The 2 rangers that we're requesting are also full-time, and I should point out that we have a parks naturalist, again, as she coordinates our nature programs, but our park rangers also make presentations throughout the year to park visitors. They teach fly fishing, they do biking courses, they teach canoe and kayak paddling, they lead tours of our canoe trail, which runs from Pemberton through Mount Holly. So our rangers are always quite busy. We'd like to bring on 2 additional rangers, again full-time if we can. We can keep them busy, and our parks continue to grow, our park system continues to grow. We actually have the same number of rangers now that we had 5 years ago, and we have many more parks. We've added many more parks since then. Should point out a couple of our important programs. During the summer we run a junior ranger program, and we have as many as 350 children sign up for the junior ranger program. 2 years ago we started a young naturalist program. The young naturalist program is for children, actually young adults, between the ages of 12 and 17. We teach them how to, the skills that they need to become park naturalists or enter a career in the environmental sciences. So you as young adults may wish to take part in that young naturalist program. But again, it's a very intensive program, and it's run by our park rangers and our parks naturalists. And again, we need more. We're looking for 2 more park rangers, and we think that would help us greatly in keeping the visitors happy, presenting more programs. Our programs now for the spring consisted of 4 pages, or took up 4 pages, and all of our programs were filled to the point that we created waiting lists within 2 weeks of us announcing the program. So the more programs we can do, the happier the visitors will be, happier I will be, and but we need the personnel for that. So one of my major pitches to you will be the increase in personnel. If you look at our budget and compare it to last year, there is a decrease in the budget from last year. We, again, try to be very efficient. We don't have any really large construction projects planned for this year in the Parks Maintenance Division. We're going to be concentrating on maintaining our newer parks and upgrading the or taking care of the new responsibilities with the Pennington Park, the reopening of Pennington Park and the additional amenities there. And we're anticipating a July opening of the county fairgrounds, so we're expecting a lot of extra work with that. So we tried to back off on our in-house projects to give our personnel time to get acquainted with those parks and do the necessary work on those parks in preparation for their opening. But thank you again, and welcome to the parks.